Hello, welcome to Taking the Biz, the channel for A-level business revision. This video is going to focus on mergers and takeovers, or you may have seen it referred to as inorganic growth. Now, mergers and takeovers are two different ways of inorganically growing an organization. A merger is where two or more firms come together, join forces, if you like, to form a new business. It's where the shareholders of each organization decide that they can be more competitive if they join with other organizations. So they take the assets that each of them own and they use those to start a new business, a new organization made up of all of the other organizations involved in the merger. A takeover is different. A takeover is where one business decides that it would like to purchase and own all of the assets of another business, including their machinery, equipment, vehicles, property, but essentially their brand names in their product portfolio. Now, with a takeover, no new business is being formed. All of the assets of one business are being transferred to the business that is taking it over. So even though the brand names of the business being taken over might live on, that business is essentially being swallowed up by the organization that is taking it over. Now, when we have mergers and takeovers, there are different styles or types of merger and takeover that a business might pursue. If a business decides that it would like to merge or take over a business that is further back in its supply chain, essentially if it wants to merge or take over a business that was formerly one of its suppliers, then it's known as a backwards vertical integration. Now, this can be advantageous for a business because now they own or have merged with an organization that used to supply them with stock or raw materials. So obviously that means that they can get their raw materials cheaper because now that they own that business, they don't need to sell it to themselves at a profit. They can sell it to themselves at cost. But it also means that they might be able to restrict supply of that component or that raw material to their competitors. So it can be a useful way of growing your business. The opposite approach is what's known as vertical forwards integration. This is where a business might decide to merge or take over a company that was formerly one of its customers. So an electronics firm, for example, might decide to merge or take over an electronics retailer that previously would have sold their products. Now, the advantage of this is that you gain more control over the marketing of your product. Rather than selling it on to a retailer, you now own that retailer or have merged with them. So you can control the end price your products are sold for. You can decide the promotions that your products are utilizing. So it gives the business more control over the sales of their products. One common type of merger or takeover is what's known as horizontal integration, where businesses are coming together through mergers or takeovers with a business that was formerly one of their rivals at the same stage of the supply chain or the production process as them. So two rival car manufacturers may decide to integrate. One might take over the other, or the two might merge together. Now, one of the big advantages of this is obviously that we get economies of scale, because now we have a business that needs to purchase all of its parts, all of its components on a grander scale. The wildcard type of integration is what's known as diversification, where a business decides to take over or merge with not a firm that's even involved in the same supply chain, but a firm from a completely different industry. So if the manufacturer of sportswear equipment decided to merge with a media company, this would be known as diversification. Two firms from different industries, potentially different stages of the production process, deciding to integrate together. Now, when we're writing essays, we might get asked to talk about the benefits of mergers and takeovers or inorganic growth. The first that we might want to write about in terms of advantages is what's known as synergy. The idea that when we bring two things together, then what they create is greater than the sum of its parts. In textbooks, they refer to synergy as 2 plus 2 equaling 5, the end result being something greater than the individual sum of its parts. I always liken it to Cadbury's chocolate buttons. When you are eating a glorious pack of chocolate buttons, you can eat 2 chocolate buttons, one after the other, and they taste fantastic. But if you take those 2 buttons, put them back to back, pop them on the palate, then what they create when added together is a taste sensation unlike no other. It's synergy. It's 2 things coming together to create something even greater. And that's what firms are after with inorganic growth. They're hoping that by bringing 2 separate organizations together, what it creates is something better, bigger, greater than the individual parts when they were separate. So synergy is a great example to write about of inorganic growth, as is economies of scale. So the economies of scale with vertical backwards and vertical forwards integration may still materialize. There may be some crossover in terms of the marketing perhaps, or some of the functions of the organization. There may be cost savings that can be made in the purchase of raw materials. But some of the greatest economies of scale are going to be with horizontal integration, where 2 firms from the same stage of the supply chain are integrating and can get those purchasing economies of scale going. And the other advantage firms are hoping to achieve through inorganic growth is, of course, the growth in profits. So bringing 2 firms together means the profits of those 2 organizations can be combined. The costs of those 2 firms may well be able to be reduced, as bringing 2 firms together might mean that the firm doesn't need to duplicate all of those resources. So maybe some of the human resources can be let go, maybe some of the physical resources that are duplicated can be sold off, and it might increase the profits of the organization. But there are some potential limitations of mergers and takeovers as well. First of all, it may be that larger mergers and takeovers have to be signed off by regulators such as the Competitions and Markets Authority, and it might be that mergers and takeovers could even be blocked if regulators feel that it might create too powerful a firm that might dominate the market, might create monopoly power for this new organization that might not be in the interests of consumers. So we've got the problem that maybe regulators might investigate our inorganic growth. We've also got potential human resource issues. Mergers and takeovers can be a period of upheaval and insecurity for staff who might feel that their job is being threatened as organizations are coming together. Their job might even be moved to a different location or replaced altogether. If your job is protected, it might be that valued colleagues are losing theirs. So it can be a period of uncertainty, of job insecurity that might lead to problems with motivation, might lead to problems like absenteeism, labour turnover, lower levels of productivity. That doesn't even account for the problems we might have with motivation caused by trying to integrate the cultures of 2 different businesses together as well. So it can be a challenging thing to bring these organisations together to create a business going forward. We've also got the huge cost that's involved with takeovers specifically as well. So when large PLCs are taking over other organisations, it's possible that the takeover might cost tens of millions, hundreds of millions, or into the billions of pounds. Lots of that might need to be from borrowed funds through external finance, which might need to be repaid with interest. So it can be an expensive process to go through as well. And of course, we shouldn't mention economies of scale being an advantage without also having half a mind on the fact that Inorganic growth creates larger organizations. Bringing two businesses together creates a bigger firm. And we know that when the scale of our output is increased, yes, we may benefit from economies of scale, but if this goes further, we might suffer from diseconomies of scale. We might suffer from inefficiencies of now running an organization that is much larger in scope. This might mean that we have difficulties managing the organization effectively. It might mean that we have difficulties with our organizational hierarchy, with overseeing the work of employees. Labor productivity may begin to suffer. Unit costs may start to rise back up again. We might have diseconomies of scale on our hands, which obviously has a financial impact on the organization. So there's our topic of inorganic growth, mergers and takeovers. Important to know the difference between the two, the different types of integration firms might be attracted to, and the advantages and limitations of integration. Hopefully that will help you if that topic comes up on the exam. Keep on taking the biz.